I had an opportunity to spend some time in Switzerland and England and Mexico with Jack pursuing business type transactions. The one thing I always say about Jack is it was always an adventure. I never knew where the adventure was going to be at, but it was always an adventure. Where I'm at today is specifically, and where Kathy Van is at today, because she was there when Jack was there, we were all in business together, is because of Jack Hazzard. And I cannot congratulate him enough on his life. I cannot say enough about what an interesting life he interjected me to in the business world. I'm not, I'm more of a business type person than I am anything else, but Jack Hazzard did more for me in my life than any one single individual. Wow. And for that, Jack,
I had been a little familiar with Bukowski, but hanging out with Jack really opened up my eyes to him. And I was rummaging through my collection of Bukowski's poems the other day, and I recalled this one. It's entitled Style, and it says a lot about Jack and the type of people Jack liked to associate with. Style is the answer to everything. A fresh way to approach a dull or dangerous day. To do a dull thing with style is preferable to doing a dangerous thing without style. To do a dangerous thing with style is what I call art.
He was just like this master understatement. Any of you guys, I'm sure, never had a story from Jack and was like, well, how did that go? And he'd start off with something that sounded very innocuous. And then by the time the story built and the time the story developed, it was like a 3-act play. It had all of these people involved and all these consequences with animals and women and who knows what. You just never knew where it was going. You knew it was going to be entertaining. The guy was a true raconteur. He had a great bunch of Paris stories, and I think one time he was in a great bar in Paris, and John Derrick was in there, Bo Derrick, and Ursula Andress. And Jack had a great deal of admiration for John Derrick. He didn't know him. He just figured anybody that could marry these women was, or even know them on any kind of basis was incredible. So he sent over to John Derrick's table an $850 glass of Napoleonic brandy with a little note to a great appreciator. And I don't know if anything ever came out of that, but Jack enjoyed that moment a lot. He liked to talk about it. It was just sad. It was great for him to be back in Austin. We really had a lot of good times. He came over to the house and ate a lot, and he just really enjoyed Betty's cheese enchiladas, and he enjoyed hanging out with our grandkids. And it was just an incredibly gifted, talented, maybe Renaissance man gets overused a lot, but he was very, very knowledgeable and creative in so many different ways, in so many different areas. So it's just hard to put them all together. And I'm going to miss him a lot, as I know everybody else here is too.
If I had to describe Jack succinctly, I would say he was the inspiration for the Dos Equis commercial, because in our little world, Jack Hazzard truly was the most interesting man in our life, and I know we all love him and adore him and miss him. So here's to Jack.
We were doing our release, and this mysterious gentleman came in, and my album was called Texas France, sort of a combination of Texas and Paris, and this was soon after Jack had lived in Paris. And I didn't know him at the time, but we were playing, and he brought in this white and black cowhide beret, which was perfect for Texas France, and laid it at my feet. And we, at that moment, christened the band the Cow Beret Orchestra, and which is a name we've kind of held till today. And I met Jack several years later when he was working. He had invited Chris Gage, my husband, to co-produce 8.5 Souvenirs. And I met Jack And after I'd known him for quite a while, he said, "So do you still have the beret that I brought you?" And I had no idea he was the mysterious character, but of course he was. It made perfect sense.
Jack was again fond of 8.5 Souvenirs, had taken us under his wing, and again took me out in his car for a drive one day and said, "You know, I know you got a good job, but you know, what do you do every day, and this and that, and you know, to say that life happens when you least expect it, and it usually makes you look twice and walk over an edge." I did not know where the edge was, but to know I was going to ask you to walk, and to know where you're going to have the stones to walk over the edge. And at that moment, being in my 20s, just out of college, blue-collar boy from Detroit, I didn't go near the edge. Didn't have it in me, but for him to say, "Go ahead, it's going to be all right," I've been jumping over the edge every time it's felt like it since. You know, Mr. Hazzard taught me how. So, bless his heart. Thank y'all.
We knew each other for maybe 3 weeks, and he said, "Johnson, we need to go to the greeting card show in New York." And farm boy had never been to New York. And so New York City is one thing, but New York City with Hazzard is a different thing altogether. And so he went out and rented a brand new Lincoln, and we loaded all the greeting cards into the Lincoln Continental. And 21 hours, we drove straight through to the Apple, and we put our car in a high-rise garage, checked into, I think it was the St. James Hotel. It was what Hazzard called an international hotel. What that meant to me was I couldn't understand anybody, guests or people that worked there. But we managed to get through the greeting card show, but we did celebrate a lot along the way. It was a 3-day event. And it was time to go home, but we couldn't find a little ticket to get our car out of the garage. And we had to stay an extra day in order to locate the ticket. But that's kind of the way Jack rolled. There are an endless amount of stories I can tell you about Hazzard. But as you look through some of the material that I've kept, that it's laying around on the table, if you have any questions, I know all the stories, and happy to tell you more. Here's to Haz. We love you guys.
There was a period of time in the late 80s when I first opened up the club and things were not going that well. South Congress is not what it is today. And I had a big group of investors, because I had to, you know, even though it was only 80 grand, nobody really, I mean, I was raising $1,500 at the time. I mean, these were small investors, but there was quite a few of them, and they didn't necessarily like the way things were being run at the Continental, just because, you know, things weren't happening down here yet. And there was a period of time within the first year where they decided that maybe I was not the guy to be in charge and be the steward of that place down on South Congress. And I really didn't know what to do. I didn't have a lot of business acumen when it came to, I'd only worked for people, I'd never really worked for myself, and wasn't really sure what to do. And so I did what anybody else would do. I called Jack. And it's like, Jack, this is what's going on. You know, these guys are trying to oust me. There's a lot of them. And he said, we need to have a meeting. You know, let's have a meeting with these guys. And so we went to the meeting, Jack and I, and between he and I and my brother, we had enough interest in the partnership to have control of it, which he assured me that's really all we needed. And, you know, I stood behind him. Nobody could see me because of the size of Jack. And, you know, he told me what to say, and I said it with him in front of me. And, you know, we defeated those guys and wound up basically buying them all out. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't have gotten to where I am today, which, you know, he was the warmest, most generous man that I've ever met, next to my father. And I love it.
He empowered others to be successful in whatever their endeavor was. And what greater legacy can you have that you empower other people to be successful? And that's Jack Hazzard's legacy.
They don't make them like Jack, and I wish there were more people out there that were like him. So here's to you, Jack.
My father loved you. He had stories for me, like you have stories today, about many of them. And I'd really like to thank Steve and RD and Olivier and Stu for the attention to detail you put into putting this together. Dad had said he didn't want any fuss made over him. He didn't want any funeral or memorial. And this is it. And I can tell you, he would have left us so much. And I have to believe that he's here, hearing every word. I loved him so much, and I can't believe he's gone. And I can't call him, but I truly do see him in all of you. And it's brought me so much joy. And even though I'm crying, I'm so thankful and so grateful. Because Dad was a creative, loving, funny, dry, brilliant, artistic, progressive man. But I can see that all of those qualities are still living on in so many people I've met here. And I can see that he's alive here in Austin. And I can't thank you enough.
Maybe we can get a little 8.5 souvenir action happening.
La comedia,